Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the 2019 16-inch MacBook Pro is about 3 months old, and I actually never did a review on it because, well, there were a bunch of them out there, but now I've had some time to use it, and I've used it as my editing machine on and off while I'm traveling, or just on the go, or having issues with other computers. For example, when I got the Mac Pro, the expensive Mac Pro, it wasn't working properly when I first set it up, and so I moved the footage onto this MacBook Pro and edited a multicam clip with no problem whatsoever. And so it performed exactly how I wanted it to, and it's been a very reliable computer ever since. And so I wanted to talk about my experience with it over the past 3 months, using it not only as an editing machine, but as just a normal laptop and browsing and things like that. So this laptop is very familiar. It's the same design we've had for a few years now, just a little bit bigger because we have a 16-inch display. And that display is really nice. It's what we expect from Apple as far as Retina displays. If you've used a Retina display before, you'll be happy with this one. So no complaints there. And then, of course, the number one change that people saw with this was the switch back to scissor keyboards. And the keyboard is great. It's fine. It still has the touch bar. I never use the touch bar. Other than turning brightness up or turning volume up, I never use it. So it's not something I find valuable. It's not something that I use regularly. It's just there. And if Apple reverted back to the regular keys, I'd have no problem with that either. Of course, we have our escape key back, which everyone really is pretty happy with. And Touch ID is nice as well. So keep Touch ID, get rid of the touch bar, keep the touch bar. Either way is fine with me, but I don't really use it. But the keyboard is nice. And if I type something like, "Hi, how are you today?" You'll see I don't type normally. I use basically these fingers and thumbs, and I can type on it fine. But one thing I did not expect when using it is it's actually harder to type on. It requires more pressure to push your fingers down. So that took a little bit of adjustment. It's not a big deal, but it is something I noticed since the butterfly keyboard takes so little pressure, and for touch typists, this is a big problem. But for me, I actually liked it because the keys were bigger. So I personally never had an issue with the butterfly keyboards. I never had one fail. My 2016 13-inch is still working fine, but this is a nicer keyboard for sure with the newer arrow keys, or going back to what they should have been all along. So no issues. I like it, and I have no problems with it. Now, the main thing I got this for is editing on the go. And so when I'm using it, it's super fast. This is the Core i9 variant with 32 gigabytes of RAM and the upgraded graphics card. So I really see this, after using it for 3 months, I see this as a Mac Pro on the go, or an iMac Pro on the go. No, it's not as fast as the Mac Pro, but in most situations, it's the same or better. When I'm exporting, it's super fast, except for when I'm doing things maybe like motion tracking. If I'm motion tracking my hand here on a video and I'm sticking text to it and want it to track around, this computer will be a little bit slower. But when I'm exporting video, it's fast enough that most people won't notice, and when I'm editing, it's just seamless. So I have no issues in Final Cut. It runs fine. It's super smooth and fast, and no issues whatsoever when it comes to that. And so as a super fast, powerful machine, it's great for exactly what I bought it for. I use Pixelmator Pro and Final Cut Pro 10 with no issues, and that's what I use it for. But when we're talking about battery life, that's where it takes a big hit. Now, when you're using this just to browse the internet using Safari, you'll probably get about 7 hours or so, depending on what you're doing. If you're watching a lot of video, the time can vary, but about 7 hours is what I say, 7 to 8. If you're editing video, maybe 2. So that's pretty typical when you're pushing the processor at full speed and the GPU at full speed. You're going to get about that same sort of time frame. So really don't expect amazing battery life, a couple hours, but if you're editing video, I would highly suggest you plug it in and just use it like that. If you're on the go, you're going to get a couple hours, and that's really what I find. As far as the speakers are incredible. They work really, really well. And of course, the microphone as well is amazing. So if you haven't heard these speakers, when it comes to a laptop, I think they're pretty much the best out there. When it comes to the actual recording of my voice through the speakers on here, well, let me show you what that sounds like, or let you listen to what that sounds like. So now I'll record with the MacBook Pro microphone. I'll put it right in front of me and record right where it is. Now I have a microphone right above me that's recording audio right now. Let me switch to the MacBook Pro, and this is unedited audio straight out of the MacBook Pro that you're hearing my voice from. And I've put no modifiers on it or anything like that. It's just increased as far as the volume is concerned to match what the volume of the rest of the video is. So nothing is different. That's all it is. And the microphone sounds pretty fantastic. You could definitely use it in a video if you were in a pinch and you didn't have a professional microphone around to use. Now with this MacBook Pro, I finally feel like Apple is listening to creators, listening to people that use their MacBook Pro as professional machines, and they're finally doing things like we need, making it a little bit thicker, putting in a bigger battery, allowing the thermals to really go to the max and cool it properly. And so I'm really happy to see Apple doing that. And I was very close to thinking about building my own computer and switching to DaVinci Resolve. But after years of using Windows and being in the IT field, I just greatly prefer macOS. Since I've supported that for over 20 years, I really prefer macOS after fixing a lot of issues and things for years. And so I'm not using this for gaming. If I was, I'll switch to my home-built Windows PC, and I could show that in another video if you want to see that. But I really think of this as an iMac Pro on the go. And so it really accomplishes everything I want. If there were two negatives, the first one is price. This is over $4,000 as configured, about $4,250 after tax, maybe a little bit more than that with Apple Care and all of those things. So it's a really expensive computer. And then the other thing is, which this doesn't bother me so much, but it may bother some people, is fan noise. To cool this, they really spin those fans up. So it's definitely noticeable. So if you're editing with, say, AirPods Pro that noise cancels, you won't hear it at all. But if you're in a room, people are definitely going to hear you when you're exporting video or something like that. These fans do spin up loud, and I'm okay with that as long as it's pushing through the footage and not thermal throttling. So they've fixed all those issues. I really appreciate it, and I like this MacBook Pro. It's one of my favorites I've ever had. And I know some other people, such as my friend Quinn over at Snazzy Labs, he's had issues with macOS Catalina in particular. I've had zero issues on the MacBook Pro. I've had some other issues on the Mac Pro. So thankfully, mine's working great. I have zero complaints with it whatsoever. It's the best Mac since my 2013 MacBook Pro, in my opinion. But let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I know some people have just picked one up, and I'd like to hear what you have to say about it as well. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.